Hello and welcome to episode 16. Kel, look interested. We're back again as usual every week, but we need more listeners, so you can get listening more.
Share it with your grannies.
We're not doing this part again. Yeah, so last week was a Premier League special. This week's just a kind of mix.
Normal.
Greg, what top are you repping this week?
Queen of the South, BP's taxes. Believe it's from the COVID season.
I think so.
Yeah,
Or a COVID season. They've all blended into one. It was one of the ones we were shit in, which is most of them.
But the last 10 years.
2013.
I'm also repping some Filipino beer.
I was going to come to that after, but it's okay. That's okay. I'm repping an old Rangers top. I'm not sure what year it's from. It is the original as well, so you know. Shows you the difference between the newer tops, considering that all the sponsors all peel off after about 3 weeks, and this has still lasted. And Kyle's got a more modern Rangers top on. I thought we were getting an X-rated view in there.
Thank you.
Greg's on the. What were you on the San Miguel?
The Filipino beer, the San Miguel.
I went for a bit of Corona for a bit of variety. I thought I'd change it up, as last week I had that Bowmore that they didn't answer, so I was quite upset. So it's okay, Bowmore. I'll just not ask again.
Just stop drinking the whiskey until they give you some.
Yeah, I've got plenty in the cupboard, so Kel, you are on. Straight from the Well Park Brewery, from the Mother Tea.
It's all I've got. I don't want it, but it's all I've got. So.
Oh, I like Tennants.
Right. It's that brandy snookered.
Yeah, so that was one of the ones I was going to ask next.
Oh, it's a spot.
We need a trip to the Mill Park Brewery when we're in Glasgow. Live episode. Just live stream it.
If they pay us.
Put a GoPro on Greg's head and he's just looking down at us.
The Francis Bourgeois.
Right, so we're going to start off this week by looking at some controversy in football. We've all picked a controversial moment. Some of them from before we were born. Some of them, I think, are a bit more modern that we remember. We've all picked one, so we'll agree on which one was the most controversial afterwards, and we have not conferred, so we don't know who's picked what. So hopefully we've all picked something different.
Three for Qatar.
Who wants to start?
Any takers?
On you go,
Kyle. Start. Yeah, 2 against 1.
So now we just all go first. Yeah. Well, I've went for The Disgrace of Gijón, if you've heard of that.
Please elaborate for the listeners.
Well, 1982 World Cup, correct? Must be. Austria top their group and have third place West Germany. I'm reading off my script. Have third place West Germany left to play. Algeria sits second, having played all their games. A 1-0 or a 2-0 German win would allow both Austria and Germany both to go through. Following?
Yes.
10 minutes in, and it's 1-0 to West Germany. Way, we're loving life. And then 80 minutes, they just fuck about, pass it in the back, waste time, run out the game. Knocking Algeria out on goal difference. So, poor Algeria.
That's a sin, that.
Which is why now the final game is always played at the same time in every cup competition.
I was going to put that in. Is that why? There you go.
And, despite denying it for many years, Hans-Peter Brieger, a player who played for Germany, admitted the game is fixed. So they conspired to cheat poor Algeria.
They never recovered.
They're still shite. Match fixing.
That's a sin, that. You shouldn't not be getting that on the international, on the highest stage.
It was a Scottish referee to let this shit slide.
But there's nothing the referee can do, really, is there?
No, the game's already fixed. But I suppose was he would have been involved.
He works for UEFA or FIFA, so he's a branch of FIFA.
He is an accomplice.
Yeah.
But there's nothing to say the referee has to be involved, because all that needs to happen is, to not pass it about.
It's more between Austria and Germany,
Yeah.
which is quite a weird relationship based on historical events.
Good job. This is a history podcast. There's a fly on my screen. Away. Sorry. Yeah, that is quite controversial when you think about it. What year did you say it was? 82.
1982. That was a World Cup. Don't know where.
Who won the World Cup that year?
Well,
Argentina, I think.
Ah.
Somebody.
it was
Wasn't it
Spain,
Algeria?
was it not? Where it was held.
Who?
Yeah.
Yawn.
There's
We are going to Spain to follow, Sandy. We packed our bags, we're on our way. Well, she has packed her bags now, to be fair, she is on her way. A little
Really?
political joke there for those in the know. It was Italy
Yes.
who won the World Cup that year. West Germany got to the final.
Oh, well, they shouldn't have. Algeria should have.
justice for Algeria.
All I can think about is Majid Bougueira when I think of Algeria.
He was born.
Probably not.
Don't know. Who's going to go next?
Yeah.
Since I was forced to go first.
Greg, you can go next.
Oh, for God's sake. I think we should gang up on Robert, Kyle.
I'm seeing at this.
No, it's fine. Mine is much more recent. Mine's is, not even at a World Cup qualification match. We all know where this is going.
Excuse me.
I think so.
Into extra time.
Dramatic
At the Stade
pause.
de Into extra time at the Stade de France. To go into the 2010 World Cup.
Who's
Free
have
kick
you got
comes
the
in.
okay, have you got the remote control? Put him in slow motion.
Free kick comes in. Oh, you fast forwarded me now. Free kick comes in. Ball goes in the back of the net. You see all the Ireland players surround the referee. William Gallas has scored, but Thierry Henry has played, a lovely backhand pass across the face of goal to him. And that led France to the 2010 World Cup, where they then imploded. So, all's well that ends badly for France. I'm sure Ireland were very happy about that, but, it denied Ireland a place at a World Cup. Well, people say that. It denied Ireland penalties for a place at the World Cup. There's no guarantee they would have won it. But widely cited as the reason why VAR has now been introduced into football.
Did if I remember correctly, did France not get absolutely hammered by the Irish rugby team not long after, and so it was stated that was the revenge?
I have absolutely no idea. I can't think of that.
I'm sure someone told me that.
It would
No
maybe
clue.
be the next year in 2010, because that was November 2009. So it would be after. It would maybe be the next year's Six Nations.
Yeah, well, apparently, yeah. A bit of a sidetrack away from football, but yes, I do remember that actually, because there was a game on Miniclip or one of those sites, I'm sure, where you had to press the button and his hand moved, or the balls kept coming in, and you had to see him, and you could handball in a row, I'm sure.
But, does that question Henry's status as a legend? Is he a cheat as well as a legend?
Well, plenty of legends have cheated in the past.
Interesting.
As we can come on to, Robert.
But you don't know what mine is.
No idea.
That's the whole thing, Dagger.
I was meaning Messi, he's cheated.
Has he?
What's he done?
For a handball years ago. Ronaldo
Well,
dives.
speaking of Argentinians handballing it, I'm going to cast your minds back to the 1986 World Cup. I've also got my notes below, so
I'm not even a fetus.
Thank you for that biology lesson, Greg.
I can't cast my mind back.
No, pretend.
For the more experienced listeners.
Yes, for our more experienced listeners and more educated. He helped his country win the 1986 World Cup, which included a very controversial incident. Can anybody remember what the incident was called? Little quiz. Kale Palmer, Dumfries.
And the Peyton. Hand of God.
Hand of God, yes. It refers to the goal that he scored against England on the 22nd of June 1986. He jumped up to head the ball, and instead of using his head, he used his hand to put it past Peter Shilton to give Argentina the 1-0 lead. The referees missed the handball, and obviously, because it was in the 80s, there was no video refereeing, no technology to overrule the decision. I actually have the photos saved. I don't know if I'll be able to show it on the screen. I mean, I don't know who in the right mind won't have seen the photo, but that was the number there. So quite clearly, punching the ball.
I mean, there's a good foot difference between them, so he should be winning the header. So you should read.
After the game, Maradona said he scored a little with his head and a little with the hand of God. Maradona later admitted that it wouldn't have been given in modern days, and
Never.
yeah, he admitted to using his hand, which, to be honest, he's a maniac. So he was a bit of a maniac. So I don't think he would have ever denied it. Obviously, the controversy around that was, one, he used his hand, and two, English media. That ultimately led to England being put out. So obviously there was an uproar about that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's fine. Like, why are we talking about this as cheating? It was great play.
Controversial for our English listeners.
Get off his.
Yeah.
So what do we think then? What out of the three, what is the most controversial?
Well, mine's led to a whole new rule change.
I think Kyle's was quite controversial in the sense that, like, match fixing is a big no-no. You know what I mean? It wasn't just one player, like Henry or Maradona.
It's not a split-second decision.
Yeah, it was planned.
Yeah, it's a premeditated plan.
Has there not? I might be wrong. Has there not also been some match fixing involved with French teams? I'm sure when Rangers were on track to, was it before the Champions League was reformed? I'm sure it was Marseille. I could be wrong. I'm sure they were later found out to be cheating.
Well,
like Rangers were later found out to be cheating.
Not on the field though.
Italy's bad for it. They're always getting investigated.
Only off the field. Yeah, we can say Italy's bad for it. There was a German match fixing scandal in 2005. You've got the whole Man City thing now, which isn't match fixing but financial doping. Controversy in football never goes away.
Ivan Toney betting and such.
Yeah,
I know. I'll put a £5 on him being found guilty and banned some matches.
Does he?
Sorry, right here. 1993, it was obviously before the Champions League was restructured. Marseille beat Milan in the final. They were 1 point ahead of Rangers. But obviously, I can't remember. Obviously, with match fixing, that would have been Rangers' best chance to get to Champions League final. But anyway, they beat Milan in the final 1-0. This was 1993, and Marseille and their club president would later be found to have been involved in a match fixing scandal, in which Marseille allegedly paid. I don't know what this team is. Jesus, how do you pronounce that? I'm going to put it in the Discord so you can judge. Basically, they got done with match fixing, and then I believe it was. Yeah, saw them relegated to Division 2 and banned from participation in European football for the following season, as the scandal affected only French league matches. Marseille's status as the 1993 European champion was not affected, so they didn't get stripped of it.
Yeah, so I think it's a Valenciennes.
Yeah.
That's how you pronounce it?
I have no idea. I didn't want to butcher it. So, yeah, it was against them. So, very bad. But, yeah, I'd say doing it in a World Cup is more controversial.
Very, very bad. But you saying it cost Rangers a title is a bit of a stretch.
I never said that. I said it cost them a cup final.
Well, it didn't, though, because they only did it during the league.
Yeah, but they would have been on good form.
Really? I don't think match fixing affects your form. I think the whole point of match fixing is no matter how shit you are, you still win.
If you have fixed matches, you've got good form, you have lots of W's.
Mm,
Not legit W's, but they're W's.
So yeah, right, Greg, yeah, I do think.
Too mainstream.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very hard. I think ultimately, if you're looking at it from a whole perspective, I think Kyle's is probably the most controversial. But at the same
There's the
time,
box. That's me outside it. Thinking.
but thinking about it, everybody knows the hand of God.
yes, they do.
Not everyone knows. What was it? The
Thierry Henry.
no. Well, yeah, we could
Gihon.
notice that. Yes, the Gihon stuff.
So
So there.
expanding your minds to a simpler thing.
Yeah, but maybe it's not as controversial because people don't know as much about it.
Yeah, because folk think controversy. Maradona. And
Do you just prove my
Henry,
point?
yeah, so I'm a fan of different things. Different.
Doesn't mean it's more
things.
controversial though. This is like
Obviously,
Greg. This is like Greg saying that we can't have players in our teams because he doesn't agree with them.
But I picked it because it's outside the box. It's something different. If you all picked
That
fucking
doesn't mean it's
Maradona,
good.
then that's
Yeah.
I'll change it. So
Yeah, but
Qatar.
everyone knows.
No,
Everyone knows
no.
Maradona.
The whole Qatar stuff. I'm taking that one.
Everyone knows
Right,
Maradona as a cheat.
Stick your key up your arse.
Let's talk about that a wee bit then. Go then, Kyle. Talk us through it.
Or paid
More
lots of-
recent controversy.
Qatar played lots of money to host World Cup and lost it. I didn't get all about it.
Yes, they paid a lot of money. Weren't allowed to host, and then killed a lot of migrant workers in the process. Inhumane. Completely changed the structure, having it in winter instead of the summer.
Yep.
Do you think anything else?
Promised that they would respect people's rights
Oh yeah.
and respect
Whatever.
protest of them at the World Cup, and decided not to bother. However, the thing with Qatar is, as much as what happened off the field, we have to admit that on the field it was a good World Cup.
It's
and
probably
it
the
was
best one
really
we've had.
bad.
Oh yeah, well, it was probably like 2010.
2010 wasn't even that good. Like
I
if you go
enjoyed it.
back through the games, I enjoyed 2010 because it was the first, like, because of the age I was at the time
Yeah.
and it
Probably
being in
same.
South Africa. But if you go back and look at the actual football, it wasn't amazing.
I prefer 2014.
I like the Jabulani
I wanted
and the
one.
controversy around that. I saw recently, Ben Foster does his podcast these days. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Chris MD. He was hitting free kicks at him using the Jabulani, and just honestly, the balls go glass.
It's where they made it.
Yeah.
Streamlined.
Well, I mean, you saw Robert Green's howler in the USA. We've talked about that one before.
Yes.
And I like the Jabulani, the final cut, the final ball. It was white and gold. It was lovely.
Well,
I should know this because I've seen the balls at the FIFA Museum in Zurich. It's a fantastic museum. You should all go.
Yes, Greg has been to that museum. I'm quite jealous. You've seen the trophy.
Yeah. And they also have World Cup balls from every World Cup on the wall, which is great. I know, stop sniggering. Mature.
To be fair,
Yes,
I was
went
also
to Zurich and I seen some balls. Right, moving on.
No, I was going to say that's probably the closest a Scotsman's ever been to the World Cup trophy.
Yeah, probably, right.
Alexis
fine.
McAllister.
He's Argentinian.
I read he's got more Irish roots than Scottish roots, actually. I think
got-
that's hotly contested.
He's got Fife roots.
I think that's hotally contested,
I think it's got
depending on
both.
who you speak to.
Yeah,
I think it's got
exactly.
both.
But yeah, I was going to say, that's a relatively recent thing. I think it maybe started in the 80s, having a different ball for the final.
I didn't realise that.
Maybe
Every year.
well after the 80s, actually. I don't think it's as, I think it's much more recent than you think it is.
Let's be honest. It's one that brings more attention to like the finer details, and two, it's more money for them, isn't it? Making replicas.
Oh yeah. And it's another example of how FIFA in those early days were.
All the balls there, if you can see it. That's every
No,
World
I
Cup
can't.
ball.
It's a bit blurry.
That's every World Cup ball. It's quite a
They were
When-
very
when does it go
commercially
back to?
minded FIFA.
series.
Oh, well, that kind of blows out of proportion.
No, the balls go back to the 30s. Having a different ball for the final definitely doesn't go back to
Oh,
the 30s.
sorry. I think it was 2006, wasn't it? I remember it anyway. It was the gold one.
Yeah, the 2006 ball was a
Anyway.
banger actually.
I like the 2002.
I think I remember that one.
Somewhat seen.
Yeah, nah, I prefer 2006.
Had a jigsaw puzzle. It was that ball.
To go back to that, it shows how well commercially minded UEFA were in those early years. I said UEFA, I meant FIFA. FIFA were in those earlier years, where instead of whoever hosted the World Cup just picking whatever ball they wanted, UEFA then went, there's an opportunity to make some money here, and then Adidas paid to make the World Cup ball.
You
What about penny floater?
Jabulani was. We'll get every 4 years you get into an extra surge of income through it. So I suppose big brain moves. So yeah, I think we'll have to agree to disagree with which one was the most controversial. So maybe we'll leave it to a Twitter poll and an Instagram poll.
Well, fun fact with the Jabulani actually. When I was a wee dude playing football in the back garden, not my house, we kicked the ball over the road and a car ran over. It bent in like fuck. It was like a crescent moon shape and it didn't pop. So it's made us some strong stuff.
I was expecting like a real fact there, not just a wee memory
Yeah.
from your wee guy.
Well,
That was a lovely anecdote, but I think we've got to move on.
I'm not going to name names. It was a current Queen's player.
Was it a current Queen's player?
Yeah, well, I won't name names.
I kind of want to know. I've not heard this story.
Yeah, I want to name names now.
I couldn't do it.
That ran over the ball.
No, it was his
Or
ball.
Or his ball.
It's his ball.
It must be one of the wee guys then.
If get enough feedback, I'll share next week.
Okay. We'll leave it at that.
I don't know. I'll need to think of a goal.
Right. The Champions League's back. Some big results so far. We'll go from start to finish of what the games that have been played so far. AC Milan 1, Spurs 0. PSG 0, Bayern 1. Borussia Dortmund 1, Chelsea 0. Bruges 0, Benfica 2. Frankfurt 0, Napoli 2. And Frankfurt had a man sent off in that game, I believe. And the big result from last night, I'm sure Kyle enjoyed watching it. After scoring 2 goals in the first 14 minutes, Liverpool 2, Real Madrid 5. Talk us through it, Kyle.
I don't want to.
You're going to have to, because I asked you.
Well, it's going all right for the first 15. And then Vinicius Jr. just turned on the afterburners. That was it.
He's some player. He's gonna win the Ballon d'Or in the future. Let's be honest.
5 unanswered goals at Anfield is disgusting.
As I put in our Discord, Joe Gomez had an absolute shocker.
I was busy last night. I never watched it.
It wasn't just him; it was the whole lot of them.
I did enjoy. So when Alisson pings the ball straight at the Real Madrid player who scores, I did enjoy how that was phrased as a goalkeeping error. There's an alternative, which is that Joe Gomez doesn't pass it back to Alisson and just whacks it out for a throw-in. If Joe Gomez does that, it doesn't need to happen.
I think nitpicking, I would say it was the keeper.
If you want me to nitpick further, we can say that Trent Alexander-Arnold's defensive was exposed again. The one from the set piece that Militao scores.
That's been a thing for the last 6 months. He's been shite defensively.
I think he's overrated.
That set piece was shocking.
He's a right back though.
Yeah,
he should be a centre mid. Woof.
Someone agrees.
He'd be better as a centre mid, sort of thing, like because he's got good passing and such.
Yeah, and I would maybe agree if he played that position, but he's a right back.
Well, he started as a centre mid.
He
started as a centre mid, and then he got pushed to right back.
Maybe Jurgen Klopp should be answering some questions then.
He should just make some fucking bonkers excuse.
Yeah, he's good.
That set piece is shocking.
It was pre-planned.
Militao's header is ridiculous. Like he starts Alexander-Arnold and he just wanders across the 6-yard box and like thunders a header home. Now, if you're doing man marking there, someone's in front of Militao, stops him making the run. They're all standing zona marking. Alexander-Arnold doesn't follow him.
I don't like zonal.
It's allowed because of the way he wanders. He wanders kind of just behind the 6-yard line, like on the like on the opposite side from goal, and he's allowed to just wander in front of the whole line of Liverpool defenders on the 6-yard line, and not one of them picks him up. We'd also say Luka Modric is absolutely class.
So just for any viewers or listeners who didn't see the game, Darwin Nunez scored in the 4th minute, and then which was followed by Mohamed Salah in the 14th, and then Vinicius Junior scored in the 21st and 36th. The goal Greg was just talking about there, Eder Militao scored in the 47th minute, which was followed by 2 Karim Benzema goals in the 55th minute and the 67th minute. So between the 14th minute and the 67th minute, they conceded 5 goals.
A goal every 10 minutes. I mean, I think they're past it. The whole team needs a whole revamp.
I think so too. I think you know what, I did rate Jurgen Klopp, but he, like I said, he's doing my head in at the minute. It's just all excuses. He just won't take any responsibility. He's instead of maybe spending so much time trying to slate journalists and the press, maybe focus on your team.
Does he know that it's the player's fault and just doesn't want to say that?
Well, 100%. You know, I mean, it's not his job to throw them under the bus, but it's his job to take responsibility and admit that they were not up to standard.
If you watch the Queen's interviews, Bartley is ruthless. What he says, he just says, "You're shite, he's shite."
But he's not wrong.
I mean, he says
he's not wrong. I don't think Klopp would get away with turning around and saying, "I don't think these players are good enough and I need rid of them at the end of the season." Because ultimately, when you're Liverpool, if you come out and say that and say, "I want rid of these players at the end of the season," that's a massive red flag to everyone in the transfer market to go, don't sell anyone to Liverpool because they want to sign a ton of new players. And if you want to buy someone from Liverpool, just knock 10 million off the asking price and try starting there.
Maybe it's what they need to kick up the arse.
Do you think they need a new manager, or do you think Klopp's still the man for the job? Kyle, you're a Liverpool fan, so
I think I asked this last time, or a few times ago. I would sack him, but there's nobody else to take. So,
what are the options? Tuchel,
Pochettino, that's certainly.
Pochettino, possibly Conte after the summer.
Wouldn't want him.
I mean, I would personally, but it's an option.
Conte and Tuchel have the same problem, which is they're very short-term solutions that work for about 2 years and then sawed off. It's a very anti-Liverpool choice.
I'll take that.
Or what would I like to see Postecoglou's, who's been linked with every Premier League job that comes up? Let's be honest. I mean, I know I'm winning this top, but he's done a great job for Celtic. Let's be honest. He's came straight in instead of the ship and turned it around after they never got 10 in a row.
I think it's our team's a proven manager. A proven top level.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, it's not. It's just one of these things. I don't know who would replace him.
Liverpool will want to make a statement if they hire someone, and hiring Postecoglou isn't a statement.
A European.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Obviously, the way things rolled out, I don't think if Gerrard stayed at Rangers last season, I don't think we would have got the Europa League final. But surely, if he was still at Rangers and doing well, he'd have slotted right into that job. I think now because he jumped ship too early, went to Villa. He's gone now. He's messed up his chances.
Did he go early enough to Villa because he knew he wasn't getting the Liverpool job anytime soon? And B,
possibly,
like if he had finished second, not got to a Europa League final, you know, there's the risk that Gerrard just isn't good enough as a manager for that job and was just about good enough for Rangers.
I think he was good enough for Rangers, but I think
did take him about 3 years to be fair.
Yeah, I don't think Gerrard's a very good manager.
Beale's seems to be Beale's on a good run at the minute, so maybe he was the brains behind it with someone with a mask. Gerrard over.
I don't know if anyone's seen, but I read this morning some absolute ludicrous suggestion that if PSG get rid of Christophe Galtier immediately, which is apparently possible after they humbled my prediction that they'd win the Champions League by losing to Bayern.
Prediction.
Yeah, the Mystic Notman strikes again. There was a rumor that if they sacked Gaultier, that they would take Gerrard. And are you off your fucking trolley?
That's what them teams do because it's a one-horse race, so they can just appoint anyone and get away with it.
Yeah, but the whole point is they want someone who can win the Champions League, not Steven Gerrard.
But they've had
Surely someone like Zidane.
Yeah, like I find the whole thing mad. Also say, if anyone is also following random PSG news, Neymar was spotted after the Bayern Munich game playing poker, and spotted in McDonald's, I believe. Which is a great way for a professional footballer to behave after
He's
losing 1-0
injured.
in the Champions League. Yeah, well, yeah, he got stretchered off injured at the weekend, conveniently, and it was Carnival yesterday to mark the start of Lent. So
That's his
that
sister's
seems
birthday. Is
yeah,
that a joke?
it seems to happen every year that Neymar conveniently gets stretchered off injured at this time of year, just in time for Carnival.
And that's another topic for another week.
Neymar's a wanker. It's finished.
Controversy.
Right, well, Neymar, if you're listening, up par.
Come on.
Right, I think that's enough of that chat. Let's move on. Sunday is a big day. There's a lot going on. In Scotland, kicking off at 3 o'clock is the Scottish League Cup final. It is the Old Firm, Rangers versus Celtic, kicking off at 3. And then down the road at Wembley is the English League Cup final on, I think it's a 4:30 kick-off, is it?
Greg's boys.
Yeah, you should know, Greg.
I think you'll find
Yeah,
the
that's
game
correct.
I'll be watching on Sunday is France versus Scotland in the Six Nations at 3 o'clock. I won't be watching
Yeah.
either of them.
Yeah, so Rangers Celtic kick off at 3 o'clock. Manchester United versus Newcastle on the English League Cup final kicks off at 4:30, and then at the same time as the Old Firm final, France versus Scotland kick off in the rugby. What absolute shambles! I mean, 3 massive games on at the same time. Like, why?
Sports.
The rugby's been scheduled in that slot for about a year.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying why can't one of them matches be a bit earlier and one of them be later? But I suppose you wouldn't have a. You'd have thought because they always want Old Firms as early as possible to try and stop people drinking as much. You'd have thought that they had the Old Firm about 12 o'clock, had the rugby, and then the English games tend to kick off a bit later. So have a 5 o'clock kickoff.
Well, yeah, the English game, I don't think would be concerned about the rugby, to be honest.
Yeah, to be fair, it's France versus Scotland. So
as football fans go, most Scottish football fans are not like me and would not want to watch the rugby. And it's very surprising Scotland and the rugby are doing as well as they are. So, meh.
Yeah, but surely you can't say that you're not going to watch that. That's a 2-screen job. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it probably is, to be honest.
So
Depends. I actually have Viaplay, so I might watch Rangers v Celtic.
where'd you get that? Did you pay for it?
Yeah, Virgin Media.
Oh,
We don't all have IPTV.
I don't.
That's the correct answer if you're ever asked about it.
They're cracking down on that type of stuff.
Allegedly.
I mean, hardly.
That was not a beer.
Yeah, it's important to keep hydrated.
Is that a Love Island bottle?
Yeah, it's my Love Island bottle that I got for Christmas.
Oh my god.
My favourite one, actually.
How do you
Tonight.
colour?
This is one of these things where Greg doesn't like it, so no one else can.
No, Greg, yeah. To be fair, yes. But
I don't watch it. It was a present.
Tonight.
If you have to start it with "I don't watch it," but that means you know it's shit.
I don't watch it.
Today on 3 Pints and a Clean Sheet, Greg says his opinion and says, I've lost it.
Proper calls someone something sectarian.
And this sounds more like, tonight on Bottom Gear.
Accusations are running about.
Right, so do you want to save our predictions for the actual predictions, or do you want to predict it now? To be fair, the predictions are next. Let's fire on.
Let's fire on. Before we do that, Any important Rangers news before the final, Robert?
Kamar Roof probably injured again. I don't really know. I'm not really.
Nick Walsh is referee. Rangers will probably get a penalty.
Let's hope so. Maybe chuck a few pound on that. Tav does what Tav does. Good quote from David Martindale, who was in fine form at the weekend, got 2. So, which I was raging about actually. I was telling Kyle that I was going to put Tav on to score, and then for some reason I thought, nah, not realising that it was Livingston we were playing, and he got 2. I don't know if you saw the free kick, but it was banging.
I've not.
I'll send
It's
you.
dirty.
But yes, the last time that happened, David Martindale said, Tav does what Tav does. So that was just a wee quote there in case anybody didn't know.
Newcastle and Milan will have to rely on Loris Karius and goals.
Yes, I was about to ask that. What's your thoughts on the current goalkeeping situation? So, if I'm right, so Nick Pope obviously received a red card, so will be suspended. Dubravka was on loan at Man United and played 2 games, so is now cup tied.
Yeah, and will receive a medal if Newcastle lose.
And Karius is now technically first choice because.
Yeah, it's the choice between Loris Karius or Mark Gillespie because Carl Darlow got sent out on loan and he can't be recalled.
Whoa.
Who's Mark Gillespie?
Exactly, the backup keeper.
Well, 4th choice.
4th choice.
Yeah. Well, he was
Scott
5th
Carson
choice before.
I'm gonna look him up.
Yeah, I think he used to be at Carlisle.
Yeah, that sounds right.
He made 161 appearances for Carlisle. Played for 57 games for Motherwell.
Lovely.
And he's not played once for Newcastle since 2020.
Yeah. I think though there's a lot of chat, and it has been kind of raised by Newcastle fans mainly this week, that it's a bit weird that because Pope got sent off, he misses the final because it's Newcastle's next game. But if Joe Linton picked up a yellow card, which would have took him to 10 for the season, he would have been banned for 2 Premier League games, but that wouldn't apply to the League Cup final.
Yeah, but to be fair, I get what you're saying, but it kind of went both ways because what player got sent off in the semi-final?
Gimenez.
Yeah, and he can play in the final.
Yeah, but he also shouldn't have been sent off in the semi-final, but we can ignore that.
Yeah, but
should have been.
I think it should be the other way around. I think that he should have been off for the final, and Pope should have just been off for Premier League games. I think it should just be competition-wise, but that's maybe I think the FA need to decide.
Yeah, it's a bit weird that the rules don't line up. On similar subject to suspensions, Marcel Sabitzer is available for Man United, despite the fact he definitely should have been sent off at the weekend.
I mean, Man U are just a bit shit, aren't they?
The thing is, you watch Man U and you think they're a team you can get at, and then you remember, 1, they've got Marcus Rashford, and 2, that Newcastle have a lot of carries and goals.
He might come good. You got to prove a point.
That is true.
You never know.
The fact Newcastle will have Gimenez back is amazing news because Newcastle without Gimenez haven't looked the same side.
You've got Joe Linton. So,
Oh yes, Joe Linton.
Right, go on then.
Well,
we'll do the predictions.
Right, yeah, let's do these predictions. Last week, only 9 games as Bonnie Rose versus Forster was called off due to a waterlogged pitch. We all predicted that Celtic would beat Aberdeen. We all predicted that Rangers would beat Livingston. Kyle and I predicted that Cove and Arbroath would draw with each other. We all predicted that Falkirk would beat Alloa. And we all predicted that AZ and Alkmaar would be beaten by Feyenoord. Yes, none of us thought that Partick would beat Ayr in one other notable scoreline, and none of us thought that Dunfermline and Airdrie would draw. Total scores for last week: me and Kyle scored 5, Robert scored 4. That takes the overall scores to myself and Robert tied on 60 and Kyle on 62.
It's neck and neck. But there's still plenty of games to go.
Yes, and it's my choice of games this week. 2 wild cards for relatively easy to pick, so we've put the 2 cup finals. Standard list of games through that. We have put the cup finals. We know they're on Sunday. We know we don't usually do that, but they're cup finals.
Yeah.
It'll be.
So in the Scottish Premiership, all the bottom four play each other this weekend. The first game is 9th versus 10th, Kelly versus Motherwell. Motherwell with a good win over Hearts on Sunday there, in a match that didn't feature the Old Firm that was broadcast on Sky Sports, which is nice for a change. Motherwell have won 2 in a row now. Kelly have only won 1 in their last 5. I've gone for a draw.
I was literally about to say that as well. I'm going for a draw as well.
I went for a Kilmarnock.
You went for a Kelly win. And then we have 11th versus 12th. Dundee United are away to Ross County, a trip to Dingwall for them. Dundee United remain a point adrift at the bottom. United have scored more than County and Kilmarnock above them, but have lost 4 games on the spin. There's also news today that Mark Brigitte, their goalkeeper, is now out, so they're going to have to look for an emergency loan.
Good job. Did you see his absolute blunder when Stevie May scored last week?
I don't know.
I'll send you. I think my heart wants to say Dundee United. I think they might do it, but I think Ross County. So after saying that, I'm going to go draw.
I've gone for a Ross County win.
I went for a draw.
T for tie.
Yeah. Shut up.
Into the Scottish Championship, Dundee versus Inverness is the first game. Dundee lost to Morton last weekend, looking to beat Inverness, who haven't won in their last 5 league games.
Dundee.
I have also gone for Dundee.
I've gone for the Dundee Onions.
Lovely. Other game is Hamilton versus Queen's Park. Queen's Park are still top, but have only won 1 game in their last 5. Meanwhile, Hamilton remains second from bottom, but have won 4 in their last 5. I have stuck the boat out and said that Hamilton are going to win this.
I'm going to agree with you on that one, and also go Hamilton.
No, I think Queen's Park. I must have missed something.
I just, Hamilton are in decent form. That was my only justification.
Oh well.
Into League One, FC Edinburgh are at home to Clyde. The slide continues for FC Edinburgh, who've only got 1 point from the last possible 15 and drew with Montrose on Saturday. Clyde and Jim Duffy won his first game as Clyde boss. As they beat Peterhead at the weekend, that's Clyde's first win since August.
FC Edinburgh.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to FC Edinburgh.
You've gone for an FC Edinburgh win. I've gone for a draw.
But yeah, shout out to Jim Duffy in his first win.
You've gone for an FC Edinburgh win as well, Kyle.
If you hear this, go on.
I've just realised I've gone for a draw, and I don't quite know why, because I've remembered how shit Clyde are, but oh well.
First win.
Yeah, but apart from that, they're shite, and they beat Peterhead, which isn't exactly an achievement. You basically just have to turn up.
No clues from you.
Yeah. On that subject, Peterhead are at home against Kelty Hearts, and the other game we've picked in League One. Peterhead have only won twice all season. They play Kelty, who beat Queens 3-0 at the weekend. Sad faces. Kelty are one of the 2 teams Peterhead have beaten this year.
I'm going the Kelty Hearts.
Hearts.
You've gone for Kelty Hearts. I'm going to have a shite week. I've picked the draw. Don't know why.
You and Glenn.
Try to push the boat out to try and get some extra points on some results that might not happen.
Exactly. Into League 2, Forfar Athletic versus Stirling Albion. Forfar's winning streak came to an end with a 1-1 draw against Stennismere. They play second place Stirling, who've picked up 11 points from 15 and are now only 3 behind Dumbarton. Will Forfar's unbeaten run, come to an end?
Yes. No. Going for a draw.
Stirling Albion.
Draw.
Stirling Albion.
Stirling Albion for Robert. Other game in League 2 is Stranraer versus East Fife. Stranraer beat Elgin last week to halt a poor run of 3 losses in a row. East Fife have 2 wins in a row and are only 4 places above Stranraer, but only 4 points above Stranraer. I've gone for an East Fife win.
Times 2.
I'm going for a draw.
Strong.
And the wild cards this week are the 2 League Cup finals. So firstly, we have Rangers versus Celtic. Remember, this only applies within 90 minutes.
It does. But I'm still going
You think Rangers can do it? Sadly,
Yes.
I don't. I'm going for a draw. I think it'll go to extra time, might even go the distance.
So I thought I'm gonna go for Rangers.
They're going to go for Rangers as well. The other game, Manchester United versus Newcastle United, I'm going to have to go with my heart on this one. I think Newcastle can get it done.
I'm going draw. I think it'll go extra time.
It's a tough
I
one.
want Newcastle. I want Newcastle to win. I don't think they will, but I think they could get a draw.
I think my heart wants Newcastle, but the points is what I want. So I want Man U to win.
You're going for Man U win. Just to clarify, by the way, we've all said there with our heart to want Newcastle to win. Shout out to the person who said we are anti-Man United. Absolutely, we're definitely anti-Man United this
We're not
weekend.
anti-Man United. We just Newcastle. I think have had a good run. They've not won anything in years.
But the
Yeah.
Saudis.
What's that? A fucking octopus.
Yes.
I don't know how to lower this chair.
I'm anti-Man United, and I'll stand by it.
Yeah,
I'm
fuck
Uncle
Man
Man United.
Hey.
Right. Thank you very much, Greg.
That is the end of the predictions for this week.
And that is the end of the podcast for this week. I think that was a wee bit shorter. I never actually kept a note at the time, but oh well. Yes, thank you very much. We will have some interesting conversations about the cup finals. I'm sure there might be a cup final special next week for the reviews, but I'm really looking forward to them.
I'm not.
3 screens going at once.
I'm working
But
soon.
we'll see. Aye, night shift though. Still watch them.
Half a week. Who's playing?
Rangers versus Newcastle, Celtic versus Man United.
Is that Queen's Park?
Oh, right. So thank you very much. That brings us to an end for this week. Thank you for listening. Same as always, get streaming, and we will see you again next week. Thank you very much. See you later. Bye.
Every Friday, 12 o'clock. See you then.